I welcome you all to today's webinar. It is brought to you by NC State's Industry Extension Services. And I'm now going to turn it over to our host, Tamara Mack, who's the Regional Manager for IES, for brief remarks and the introduction of today's speaker. Tamara.
Thank you, Susan. I appreciate the introduction. Good morning, everyone. I am Tamara Mack, the Regional Manager with North Carolina State University's IES Department, covering the Greater Charlotte, North Carolina region. Thank you for joining us today and for your valuable time. I would like you to briefly view our IES overview and what we do. We represent industry served such as small, medium-sized manufacturers, healthcare, defense contractors, aerospace, government, educational research. Please follow us on our website and visit us at our website right at ies.ncsu.edu for more information. Here you'll see a briefly listing of our expertise. Some of our expertise are advanced manufacturing, cybersecurity, energy, grant evaluations, leadership, quality and management, many more. Again, it's a plethora of opportunities I'm sure that would be able to fit you and your business. IES administers the MEP grant for North Carolina. We are part of the MEP network that represents all 50 states. Next slide, please. There you will see some of our partners that we partnership by being in the MEP listed below. The Polymer Center, Manufacturing Solutions Center, Economic Development, the Hangar, just to name a few. Here at IES, we have regional managers serving the great state of North Carolina, representing all over the state. Please feel free to contact me or any of my hard work and dedicated regional manager colleagues at any time. Now I would like to introduce you to Mr. Eric Taylor, our supply chain optimization specialist. Thank you for your time and have a great day.
Thank you, Tamara. I appreciate it. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending this Building Resilient Supply Chain webinar. I'm glad to be here with you. I'm glad to see you today. I'm glad you're attending, and I hope that everything is well with you. We're talking about supply chain today, which it is a big part of our daily functions as far as building resilient supply chains. If you don't know or do not understand, pretty much the supply chain is pretty much a device that we have that pretty much keeps all of our manufacturing, anything from you name it, from your fast foods to your day-to-day living needs are provided through the supply chain, whether it's air, rail, trucking, or by sea, is moved by products to one point A to point B to get to your manufacturers so they can produce the goods from the raw materials all the way down to the end item and then push it down to the into the network, into the stores, into the retailers so that you can have it at your home. Some of the topics that we'll discuss today right here is the supply chain current state risk mitigation strategies and manufacturing North Carolina data database. As I was stating in the last slide, it goes from the raw material all the way down to the consumer, and then from that point forward, you're the end user and you use it at your home or at your workplace. What is the supply chain? It's a system in which it delivers products from point A to point B, from raw material all the way to the through service providers, all the way through to the end user. It's coordinated with business entire production flow with the goals of satisfying customers by right product, right place, right time, right quantity, right price and cost and impact. When it comes to supply chains, disruptions is the new normal. The problem is with the new normal of now is because Supply chains do not only affect right here within your local area. It doesn't stay within your city or your county. Your supply chain often goes throughout the state that you live in. It also goes internationally. It could be on the Western Hemisphere, which is the American Hemisphere, which is North South America, or it could also span as far as the Far East, the European region, Australia, you name it. It could be your product and your raw materials might be coming from there. So if there's some type of catastrophe in one side of the world, it could delay your products from moving from point A to point B. Some of the examples we have here is in the top left-hand corner is when the bridge, the Francis Scott Key Bridge was taken down by a shipping ship that lost power control in Baltimore. And that caused disruptions as the port was closed, and also it hit a bridge where transportation moved across that bridge daily. Biggest current event that's affecting our life right now is the events in the Persian Gulf with Iran. You have Strait of Hormuz, which is constantly being shut down. Shipping cannot move from the countries in that region. That's stopping a lot of petroleum-based products, fertilizers, and other items that is coming from that location in the world. In North Carolina, we were impacted a couple of years ago when we had a hurricane come through and cause flooding in the western portion of our state, which stopped a lot of our production in that side of the state and actually shut down some of the businesses permanently in that area. One of the biggest thing that was in that area that was affected was Baxter's, which is the company that produced IVs. Um, they were shut down. Production was shut down, which stopped medical services from providing any elective surgeries or procedures. They had to just concentrate on emergency procedures only because there was a shortage of IV bags. In Taiwan, there was an earthquake. That is where a lot of our electronics are produced, products, circuits, SIM cards or whatever you may look for as far as electronics are produced there. But when they had an earthquake, that shut down production and also shut down some of the shipping of materials. The price of fashion, this is right here in Chile. It can be seen from satellite where the resource manufacturing of clothing is being done, but problem is it may not be used or may not go out to the end user. So they use this area of the world as a dumping ground. Supply chain risk. There can be anything that can affect your supply chain, prevent your supply chain from being effective. Globalization. Our supply chains are globalized. They're globalization, which means that there's a lot of factors in there, especially when you do not receive the products and materials locally, and if you don't have a supply chain that's diverse. One of the biggest things we saw in 2020 is how vulnerable our supply chain is. When COVID happened and businesses had to shut down and we had to go to social distancing, and people could not go from point A to point B. That right there shut down our supply chain where materials and our stuff could not move from point A to point B. Biggest thing we saw was the toilet paper risk. We saw the it escapes my mind right now about to say it, but you had toilet paper cleaning supplies. You had other materials that were not able to be there because they were a lot of time produced as needed versus a major push like we did have during that time period. Political unrest, that's not going to stop and it's not going to change. There's always going to be conflict between countries. There's always going to be conflicts within countries and between countries that prevent some of our materials from moving because the deals are not going to be made, or the deals have been a time-honored relationship, and all of a sudden then someone does not get along or they don't like the way the business is being conducted, so they're going to shut down the product from being moved from point A to point B. As I discussed in the last slide before, we have natural disasters. Natural disasters can go from tornadoes, earthquakes, floods, hurricanes, you name it. Currently in Florida and recently in Florida and Georgia, you've had fires that have affected some of the region down there. Lucky enough, it has not come up on my radar as something that has stopped the supply chain from functioning, but there is those risks. Then there's regulations. You have multiple regulations out there that may prevent the production of materials. It cannot move but so much materials per day out there. And then if the regulations change as far as something being a safety guideline or anything of the such, it may slow down or stop your supply chain altogether. Trade policies, as we've seen in the US over the last year, one of the biggest things that have affected of this is tariffs. Tariffs have caused the cost of materials and products to go up tremendously. And then it's just a lot of back and forth that goes on with that that prevents our materials from moving from point A to point B. Brand perception and customer requirements, a lot of times that is changing and customers move on to another product or cannot get the same product they received in the past. You also have labor shortages and labor problems that you run into. That's something that's not going to change right there. That's almost self-explanatory. Then you have cyber security problems that prevents where you're having things ransomware that's causing problems with materials from being released. Okay, risk chain or supply chain risk mitigation. Assess your supply chain. It's look at it, make sure that it works effectively, is working the way it's supposed to, and as efficiently as it's supposed to. Sometimes that's hard. Sometimes you need an outside source to come in to tell you what's going on. As my father would tell me often in life, and if I had listened to my father plenty years ago, I'd be a millionaire. He'd say, son, in order for you to understand how big the woods is, you must step outside the woods to see how big it is. You're not going to be gaining an understanding of how big the woods is by standing in the middle of the woods. That's with your supply chain. When you look at your supply chain, if you think it's running well, more than likely it's not. It's always time to check it. You can always do it better. It can be done better. It's always a process improvement with your supply chain. Diversify your supply chain base. Look at who you're dealing with. If you're dealing with one company, you're already a risk. If you're right there dealing with multiple companies, there's a risk involved there. But guess what? You don't know the books of your current companies. You don't know if your company is going to be in business tomorrow. I'm from Fayetteville, North Carolina, and as yesterday or 2 days ago, they were notified down at the Goodyear Tire Company that they will be closing. That's been there for 56 years, and there's a tire plant that's closing. So is that a risk that we are going to assume right here in the US where we're going to have a shortage of tires because there's not going to be tires there? That's assessing your supply chain base. There should be multiple suppliers that supply your organization and suppliers that you deal with. And you're going to have to, and I'll discuss it a little bit later on in the slideshow. Implement advanced technologies. If you're using a 4 generation old textile machine to put your textile materials together, that may not be the best choice. There is automation out there nowadays for textiles, so you should be using some type of automation. You should be using some type of advanced technology to make your production a lot easier than what it is right here. You shouldn't have workers where they're transporting materials from one side of the warehouse to the next side of the warehouse with dollies or just hand carts. You should implement some type of conveyor belt system that moves it from point A to point B with a scanner system where you just put it on the conveyor belt. It goes from point A to point B without manual labor done for it. Invest in cybersecurity with ransomware and organizations outside the US or even within the US. They could be trying to get into outside your system, hold your system ransom, where you cannot push materials or produce materials or even sell your materials. Rethink your inventory. Understand how much you're selling. Plan for the worst and hope for the best. That's a tool I used a lot of times when I was in the military. Is if we plan for the worst, we'll be prepared for any of the worst situations out there, but hope for the best. And that way your supply chain can run effectively and efficiently as it's supposed to be. Risk mitigation, assessing your supply chain. Good idea to do nowadays is pretty much it's a certification out there. Part of a certification is mapping your supply chain. How do you map your supply chain? Why should you map your supply chain? That's the biggest questions out there right now. Reason you should map it is know where you're vulnerable at, know where your supply chain is not effective as it's supposed to. Always plan for the worst and hope for the best. If anybody could plan for the Persian Gulf being shut down, where the Strait of Hormuz being shut down and the materials not able to flow out of the Gulf states there, everybody would have been able to have a plan in place. It shouldn't be a problem where now the Panama Canal is right now. As of yesterday, I was listening to the news, Panama Canal, they were moving not so much container ships through there, but they were moving more tankers through the Panama Canal because they're trying to they're moving products based on needs as countries need it now, and the priority is fuel versus the container ships moving through the Panama Canal. Evaluate your and build as many tiers as possible for your supply chain. Evaluate your suppliers. Just because you have a time-honored relationship and you may have a business that's been open for a century, maybe two, there might be a time-honored relationship that's there, but it's not effective and efficient as it should be. You have to look at it and understand if your supplier works the way it's supposed to be in your supply chain. Identify your vulnerability. Are you single source? If you're single source, you need to be looking for multiple sources there because you don't know if somebody's going out of business. You don't know if the building is going to burn down and then you won't have that source. Performance. How well do your supplier perform? You may have a supplier that's late every time, but the product is 100% of what it's supposed to quality wise. You may have a supplier that's on time 100% of the time, but the materials they provide is not 100%. You might have to plan for saying that the materials that is always 100% quality is is the materials that you pick from as your primary source of supplier. But on the backside of that right there is you might have to plan for more time for them to provide you the right amount of materials at the right amount of time, right? And with the right amount of time to get it to the end user. Hidden dependencies. Look out for those right there because sometimes those may cause problems. Look for bottlenecks and also mitigate your supply chain. One of the examples that I use often right now is I have a 4-year-old son. Back in 2022, right, the year that he was born, at the end of the year, we had a formula shortage here in the US because we had one manufacturer that produced formula. The biggest thing that we should be thinking about in the US right there, why do we not have 5 plants in the US that can produce amount of formula? If one plant shut down or burned down or is shut down by the EPA, those 4 plants should be able to increase production so we can keep at the right levels of materials that need to be pushed out across the US. That's something to think about right there. And that's why it's one of my passions with supply chain because it affected my household right there because we didn't have formula. We were trying to get formula, but there was a formula shortage. Something to think about, ladies and gentlemen, because you never know when supply chain is going to affect your household directly. Risk mitigation, diversify your supply base, reduce single points of failure. Having a single point of failure is pretty much having one supplier in your supply base right there. If you're producing wine and you only have one company that produce grapes for you, guess what? If they have a hurricane or tornado and they tears up the fields, guess what? You don't have those grapes to produce that wine. How redundancy. Regionalize. You may have to pick your materials at certain times of year for the region or work within a certain region for some multi-sourcing. Have multiple suppliers that you work with. Nearshoring, friendshoring, and reshoring. If you have right now some of your materials come out of Europe and out of the Far East, you might want to think about reshoring. After this incident right here with Iran and the Strait of Hormuz, companies might want to say, hey, can we produce that material right here in the US? Can we do what we supposed to do with these petroleum-based products here in the US? Can we bring it right here to the US? Or better yet, can we friendshore it between something like Mexico and Canada so we can nearshore it and also friendshore it and bring it closer to home so that there's no problem? Consider local short sourcing. Look for the suppliers that might be in your area that you can use to build your supply chain and make it more effective. All right. The many benefits. What it does, it builds a stronger supply relationship, reduce costs because it's close by and you won't have to transport materials from overseas. It's faster response. If there's any changes, you can reach out to them directly and they can get it to you much faster and also change maybe the dimensions of what the product may be. Collaboration, it works with you where you connect with your clients and work more efficiently and effectively with each other, and you communicate with each other to know what the other person wants or what our other organization wants. Sustainability. This can be build long lasting relationships and also can build a long lasting demand for the item where it can be received without any issues. Community support, enthusiasm. It might bring a whole community out there where they support an organization and say, hey, why is this the case with this? Why they can be behind that company 100% in that area versus not knowing who they're dealing with, because if it affects the community as far as payments and the part of the economy, it affects your home directly right there in locally. If it's overseas, it's not. It's one of my counterparts said to me one time, it said in a meeting one time, they said if you have a supplier that's a couple of hours away or a drive away, that's a relationship. If you have to get on a plane to go see your supplier, guess what? That's a risk right there because now you have to travel and you also don't know what's going on the other end. You can always have, if they're local and they're close by, you can always have a relationship with them. Local sourcing in North Carolina, we have right now 11,000 establishments. It employs 471,000 people. It's the third highest rate in the state. The GDP is 16% of the nation, 3.7 of the state. Eighth in the nation and first in the Southeast. We receive anything from tortilla chips to computer chips that's requested through the system right here. Finding a supplier, how you can do that right there. We have some ways that we can work with you right here at the Industry Extension Services to assist you with that right there. Okay, if you send us an inquiry, we will receive the inquiry. We will request a review. Sometimes we'll reach out directly to you and say, hey, we need to do a meeting because we need to have a one-on-one with this right here so we can discuss some stuff that's not understood or possible ways we can approach the situation that might be easier that we can keep locally without going national for search for it. Research and find qualified suppliers. Some suppliers is going to probably be able to produce the materials, but guess what? They may not meet the qualifications for being a supplier for you. And connect and make matchmaking. We can go ahead and connect the organization with another organization and move forward with that right there, ladies and gentlemen. Supplier program. Using supplier scouting, we've had multiple organizations that have reached out to us, from the EPA to the Veterans Affairs to the Department of Transportation to the Department of Energy, Health and Human Services, Department of Treasury, USDA, and Department of Defense. They have reached out to us in supplier scouting program so that we can find the materials that might be needed. There's also a big one that's on the table is BABA, Build America, Buy America Act, which requires that all iron, steel, manufactured products, construction materials used in infrastructure products are produced in the U.S. Only way that we will not use it in the U.S. if we're not able to produce that in the U.S. and there's no companies that produce the materials that we need, and that will require a waiver for that materials to be requested and used for that project. Supplier matching program, supplier scouting. This is the information that we generally collect. We collect the description of the item, the reason for it, whether it's reshoring, change of manufacturer or supplier, whether there's technical other issues that may be at hand that may allow a company to request the materials. technical specifications, performance requirements, volume, pricing, packaging, and other information needed to request the materials out there. Additional information, how do you become a supplier? All inquiries are welcome. Local and state and national focus lead to real contracts. The supplier opportunities may exist from this. We also have on our website right here where we do have supplier opportunities out there. This is where we post the ones that's come out nationally. We post it almost weekly. Um, of new scouting opportunities that might be exist out there. That way, our client base in North Carolina can look at these and see the items on our manufacturing North Carolina website. Manufacturing North Carolina website. This is what our website look right here. Here's the hyperlink in the top left-hand side of your page, ladies and gentlemen. Online supplier database, company profiles, vetting process is free, open to anyone, and searchable. So anybody that's outside the state can reach out and go on this website and find a client and reach out to them and say, hey, we're looking at business in North Carolina, and we're looking at this, looking at your organization as a potential possible supplier for us. Supplier inquiries and requests, hands-on and personal approach, a lot of visibility for this. Biggest thing that this has done is pretty much anybody can access it, anybody can use it, and then they can go forward with that. A company can use this as a threefold program. This website is a threefold program at minimum because you can use the suppliers, open supplier opportunities, see if there's any opportunities out there that exist for your organization. You can search for suppliers and manufacturers within the state of North Carolina on this website also. And then we also have another portion of the website that is manufacturer resources. These are companies that are not manufacturers, but they provide support to the manufacturing community, whether they are warehousing, transportation, workforce certifications, safety organizations. Pretty much everything under the umbrella is on that portion of the page right there, and it works as a local. It works as an advertisement tool for organizations, but it also is a connection tool where if you don't want to go to the big guys out there and you feel that it costs too much, you can reach out to a transportation company that would be local. Say you need to move a materials from Charlotte to Durham 3 times a week. You can find a company that deals with transportation where they move stuff point A to point B versus relying on one of the bigger companies outside the state to provide you the service. This is what the supplier how it works for looking for companies. All you have to do is type in what you're looking for and then go down on the left hand side over there, narrow down your search. You can go ahead and find out the industry classification. You can look at the manufacturer's capabilities. You can put in the quality certifications. You can even check the counties that it may be in. You might want to keep your stuff local to your area as far as Charlotte, Mecklenburg area. So you'll use that portion of the website to narrow down your search to look at all the counties surrounding Mecklenburg County, and then it'll populate all the companies within that area right there that you can look for that on that tool. It's a good search tool and it's very easy to use. But if you have any questions, reach out to me and I'll do a webinar, a virtual meeting with you. And with that virtual meeting, I'll help you to go through it and learn more about the website so you can understand how to use it. And that will help your organization be able to reach out to other organizations. This is also manufacturer resources on the right-hand side of this page right here. It shows the organization, what they do, and pretty much their location, and you can reach out to them. Risk mitigation and supplier mapping. That's the biggest thing we're pushing on right now because we are setting up a program that pretty much we will map your supply chain and try to find out the vulnerabilities there. Process of visually documenting your entire supply chain network. Your suppliers and manufacturing, distribution, logistical partners involved in bringing the product to market. Involves tracing upstream and downstream flows, identifying risk, inefficiencies, and key multi-tier dependencies. Key benefits: it improve risk management, increase in efficiencies, enhance sustainability, and also achieve and create detailed data-driven results or representation of your organization. Benefits of the supply chain mapping: it identifies your vulnerabilities before they become a costly disruption. Operation efficiency uncovers bottlenecks and unnecessary steps to lower cost, improve transparency, enhance compliance, environmental and social regulations, strengthen relationships, identify and support key partners, and improve collaborations. If you don't know where your materials and your products coming from, then that might be a risk that your company is going to take real hard when something go wrong with that. Solution process: define objective scope, what to map, collect data, gather information from on partners, suppliers, manufacturer, logistical providers, survey or software. Identify stakeholders, engage in internal and external parties for accurate informations. Pretty much it relies on your partners or your suppliers and manufacturers to be honest where they're getting their materials and some of the stuff that they might have problems within their supply chain. Map the visual flow of materials, information, funds, and raw materials to from raw materials to final delivery. Solution process: analyze risks and opportunities to identify bottlenecks, graphical risk, or inefficiencies. Validate data, verify the map with the real world data and site visits. Act and maintain, implement solutions. Help you find new suppliers and update the map on a regular basis. Pretty much this is going to give you almost a geographical representation of where your products and your materials come from. You may have something that comes right across the Tennessee line, but the problem is when it snows, you cannot get through I-40 or ice in the mountains. You may not be able to move your materials there, but you're able to find a supplier right here in North Carolina that can help support your organization. That's just an example. How to participate. These are the ways to participate right here on the website. You can register, update your profile in MMC. If you already have a profile in MMC, Manufacturer North Carolina, I would suggest any organization go in there every so often, update their information in there because they may have certifications that they have not updated that organizations are looking for when they get on the website and do a search. Your organization may not deal with a certain material no more, or you may have gained 10 product lines in your organization. If you need any assistance, reach out to your regional managers, submit a supplier request form to us, and we'll go ahead and bring you in on a virtual meeting and discuss it with you, and then figure out an approach plan. Maybe we can use MMC to find you a supplier or manufacturer, or we might have to take it nationally to find you multiple suppliers or suppliers in other areas that can produce the materials for you at a better cost or and a better quality of material. Check out local listings, local list of open supplier opportunities. And biggest thing that can help us is word of mouth. It can help you also, word of mouth. If you're talking to your competitor, or you talking to the people that's within your county or your city, and you're having just the discussion about business. If you're talking to your suppliers or manufacturers, you like, look, come to this website. This might be able to help you right here. With your materials and your end item products that you're working on. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for participating today, and we are open for any questions.